Yo, what's up, everyone? I hope you're doing well. In this video, we're gonna see exactly how we book more calls. Now, a quick disclaimer, if you don't know your cost per book call, this video will not help you in any way. So you first need to find out your cost per book call, which I have videos exactly how to find out that information. But this is exactly what you're going to do once you're already generating leads. Once you have one, two, three book calls. Okay, how do I get more book calls? How do I scale this? I'm gonna show you in a second pretty much what are the things that I do and kind of like the math behind it when you're trying to scale and what does it really look like and how you could do your own math about this. So my average cost per book call is $300. Again, I'm selling, if you guys are starting off, you're probably not going to sell a 10, 20, 50, 100 gram product. You're probably going to start off at maybe 1,000 or maybe 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, like less than 5,000, let's just say, right? So that it should be, your average book call should be anywhere between 150 to max 300. The reason for me saying 300 because it's for the 2022 calendar, and that's when I was trying to charge 10K, 12K. I was going higher and higher, so my cost per book call went a little bit higher. But let's just keep it on average on 200, which I could base the math around here, because if you're selling a funding program, it should be around 200 max the 300 range. I wouldn't try to have my book call to be at $300. So let's just do it at 200. So now once you have your cost per book call, I'm kind of just gonna show you the basic of how to understand this. I have a client of mine that I really wanted to explain this to her, and now that I have this diagram, it's much easier to explain. And I'm like, hey, if she needed help with this, others might need help with this. So what is it exactly? So one of the first things you got to find out is, like I said, it is your cost per book call. Now, if you don't know your cost per book call, then it's rough. And how does this happen? Pretty much, you have an ad or a lead, right? I should just go a lead that you qualified. One second. Right? Once you have a lead that you qualified, it goes into your book call. Now, if you're tracking your data, this is the only way you can get your cost per book call. You need to have trackers like this, right? Once you get your cost per book call, you could start doing some math and be like, hey, how do I get more book calls in my calendar? So we scroll down. I put here 200 because that's honestly our average. Like we help now, it's starting to get into 100s. So we're like in the almost like 80 something credit and funding companies that we work directly and help them scale. At minimum, someone is doing 30K per month. On the high end, someone is doing like 500K months. So we have a lot of data on what works and what doesn't. So our average book call by the DMs, let me be specific. If you're doing DMs, it's going to be $200. If you're doing another way that just cold calling or let's say an application form, it could be less. But the reason why it's $200 because the lead, you're already qualifying them. So like the qualification process already happened. That's why you send them the link to book call. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch my other videos where I just describe like the different types of funnels. Like there's a DM funnel. There's just like a book to call funnel. There's also like, hey, put your info here and have one of my reps call you guys. So this is specifically the numbers that I'm giving to you guys is just for DMing. So $200 per book call after quality. So I'm gonna put it here. Cost per book qualified book call. Cost per. Well, I already put it here on the top. Lead that you qualify and then the cost of it. So I already put it there. So let's go. Let's keep going on this. So now your cost per book costs $200, right? Now it just becomes very, very simple math from now. And then I'll show you how to pretty much put that down. Once you make it close, put that money back into the ads and you can repeat the cycle over and over. So you have $200 cost per book call. Now the question becomes, okay, how can I get this in a week? How many, or even a month? How can I get 10 book calls in a month, or how can I get 10 book calls in a week? And it's pretty much simple. You pretty much just go 200 times 10, which will be $2,000. Now, this doesn't mean that if you spend exactly $2,000 on ads, because the whole thing is through ad spend, you're going to get exactly 10 book calls. It might be 9, it might be 11, it might be 12, it might be 8. It depends. It just, on average, you can expect if you spend $2,000, because your average book call is $200, right? You can expect that, like, if I spend around $2,000, I could get a good 10 book calls, right? And this is why tracking your data is so important. You cannot scale without it, because if you're trying to scale and you don't know these numbers, it's almost impossible. How can you predict where you're going, right? So boom, I spent $2,000 on marketing on Facebook and IG ads, right? And I got 10 book calls. Now, let's say at a 10% no show up rate, and that's our average. Again, since we're doing the DM system, right? So a lead, pretty much. Let me put it up here, but leads DM you, right? So leads DM you by Facebook and IG ads. So leads I DM you by Facebook and IG ads, right? Then you qualify the lead. Then you qualify the lead. Then once you book a couple more calls, you send the links out and they book the call, whatever it may be. Boom, book call. Now we get a couple of those. We know a cost per book call. Now again, you go into the no show. The reason why I wanted to go to the DM stuff, because the DM system, like this month, I could show you for this year real quick. Let me show you. For 2024, we have a 3%. Look at this. We have a 3% no-show rate. So that means 96, 90, a very large number of clients are showing up to the call. Which, if you have another system that is not the DM system, that is just like the self-book or give me your information, I call you, this could be a lot higher. But that's the reason why we have a 3% show-up rate. Which I put 10 here just to average it out, because I want to try to average numbers. But I'm just showing you how it could be even lower than 10%. So, right? So we spent $2,000 to the ad machine, the marketing. It gets us 10 book calls at a 10% no show up rate. Now we have 9 book calls, right? So then we go back to, what is your closing rate? At a 30% closing rate, which should be at least your average. At least you're averaging 30%. 6 leads said no. The other 6 leads back into the pipeline, and they go back into pretty much retargeting. Or the CIM, so you can hit him up, 3 months from now or whatever it may be, right? So that's just for the people who didn't convert. But since you do have a 30% closing rate, you are going to convert 3 leads, which is going to be this 3. Now, at a minimum 6K product or 5K product, let's just say 6, because I already wrote it here, you're going to want minimum half down, right? So, hey, prospect, okay, now that we get to the fun part is the price. So I have let's oversimplify. I have this special offer that I think will be the best offer for you. I have incentives for you to take action today. So the price of the program is $8,000. If you take action today, it will be $6,000, right? And then the client will be, well, bada bing, bada boom, bada boom. If they have the money, they're gonna pay in full. If they have a little bit of flexibility, if they don't have the money and they have a little bit of flexibility in your company, always say, let me get half down. And you say like this, when they're giving you pushback, hey, I don't have the money right now. I think 6 is too steep for you. Okay, no problem. How much can you realistically put down today? And then hopefully it's a 3K down payment. I don't take any of the less than 2 or 3. So because I'll show you right now, but there's cost to all of this, right? So you have to get a minimum of 3. Now, if you get 3 people to pay you the 3K, right? What happened is this first 3K, one lead that paid you 3K, it goes back into paying this 2,000. Right? So remember, you paid $2,000 to get 10 people to show up, to get 10 people book call at a 10% no show up rate. 9 people showed up, and you closed one of them. Well, you closed 3 of them, but one of them is giving you $3,000, which goes back, boom, into you paying the ads. Right? Now, what is the next person that gets you 3K? Now, that next person that gets you 3K. Here you have $1,000 left over, because the person gave you 3K and you gave 2,000 to this lot right here, for you can get pretty much to pay for all of this, right? So technically you're not paying for all of this. This client that you just closed is paying for the marketing, right? This client that you just closed just paid for everything, because he gave you 3K and you still have $1,000 left over. That $1,000, you combine it with this one, right? Because you have client number 2 that gave you $3,000. Now you have $4,000 left over. So, because 1,000 plus 3 equals now 4. Now that $4,000, what you do is you put it back into this, right? So you can go get another 2,000 and another 2,000. So this lead paid for the campaign that got him there. The second lead pays you for the campaign of next week or whatever it may be, and for the other week following up. You get me? Because it's $4,000, and on average, it's costing you $2,000 to get 10 people in front of you. So if you can, now you spend the 2K, 3K, the 2K you paid, you owe back. You have $1,000 left. You put that in here. Now you take this 3K, you put it in here. Now you got 4K left, right? And that 4K left, you pretty much grab it, and you dump it back into the ads. Boom. And that pays for your next campaign, like I said, of next week, and the next campaign after that. You get me? And this is how you become extremely profitable and predictable, because a lot of clients are always worried, how much should I spend on ads? What is my ad budget? You don't have an ad budget. The budget becomes your client. Your ad budget is pretty much relative to how much profit are you making. There's a certain point that you just spend, that you can pass, that you don't make your money back. That's why you got to play with it. But that's why you predictably scale, and then you get to a certain threshold, or and the reason why you don't make your money back is because it could be economics of scale. It could be you don't have enough team to fulfill the leads, or maybe you close 50 clients that month and the fulfillment department broke. It could be different things that it's not cranking out the ad budget. But this is how you pretty much have unlimited spend on ad budget. So the wrong mentality is, if you worry about your ad spend, you're doing this wrong, because your clients pay for your ads, right? And now, how do you keep your profit, right? This will actually go back into, so if you go this, it'll be an average of 20 book calls, and then you go the same cycle again, at 30% closing rate, whatever it may be. So yeah, those 4K is to get you 20 book calls, right? Which is what I just explained. It goes back to over there. Now, what happens to the lead, the third lead, I think I should put it right here. Number 1, number 2, and number 3, right? So now, number 1 lead is to pay the campaign that you have the running this week. Take $1,000 left because it's 3K. You put it back into this one to pay for the campaign of week 2nd of that month and week 3rd of that month. All right. Now we go into this lead, right? This is your actual profit. So this week, you actually profited $3,000 from this whole transaction, from this mini funnel that I'm showing you here. You made $3,000 profit. So this is what you keep in your, I'm gonna take a picture, give me a second. In your bank, right? That 3,000 goes into your bank. Now, what also happens is next month, you have another $9,000 coming in, which is all technically profit, because, like I said, these people are giving you $6,000 which is revenue, and $3,000 cash collected because they did a split payment, right? So they did a split payment. Next month, you're charging them another $3,000, which it comes in. Oh, oops, give me a second. I kind of changed it. Which it goes into next month, right? Now, next month, you have a total of $9,000 coming in. Now, what do you do with this $9,000? So, like I said, one of those always goes back into the marketing, right? Always goes back to the marketing, because you do not want to be the one paying for your marketing, right? So one of those $3,000 that you're getting back into marketing. Now, if you don't have a team, this all becomes profit. Oh, give me a second. Now, if you're doing your own sales calls, if you're doing your own setting, this all becomes your profit, right? So then you're profiting $6,000 or so this month. So that's like, I'm gonna put this a different color. Blue. Okay, boom, perfect. So that'll be your bank account, right? So again, this goes back into ads, right? This 3,000 back into ads, which is the whole, hey, I'll let me go spend another 2K, 3K, whatever it may be, to get another 10 people in front of me, right? Now, this 3,000 If you have a sales team or an appointment setter, that's your team payout. And especially it could happen the same thing here, because if you have um, a team, this you will split this part up. This part up where you have 4K and you put it in the back, you will split that up, and instead of putting the 2K for the second week, you take one of those 2K, instead of paying the third week, you pay your team, right? And then you just do the whole cycle again. You just one week belt, not behind, but you're not paying for a week in advance, which is totally normal. Like I've done it this way, and I'm also being very profitable doing it this way. But either way, if you start building the team, that could be the profit for next month. If you don't have a team, no sales team, which is of course no sales team. I'm gonna put in parentheses salesmen and setters. Salesmen and setters. Boom. So there you go. If you have no team, you can actually take all that home. So here will be $3,000, and here will be at least $9,000. So because you can get from this to, or you can get from this to. It all depends what you want to do. It all depends if where you at and where should you have an appointment setter. At least around the 30 to 50K months, you need an appointment setter because you're gonna go crazy. Then once you have a salesman, at least do all your sales from 80 to 100, 150 grand. Then start bringing in a salesman. That's kind of like what I've seen that has been successful for a lot of people. I rarely recommend starting with a big team because unless they're all very highly skilled and you can trust them, then by all means. But if try to do your own setting and your own sales calls into 0 to 30K months is totally doable. But once you get to a certain point, you need to delegate setting because it's gonna become a pain in your ass. I promise you, it's very annoying. So yeah, everyone, that's pretty much what this becomes. Again, a quick rundown. You have leads DMing you by Facebook and IG. Then you qualify them. Once they qualify, you book an appointment. Then once you book a couple of these, you know your cost per book call. Then we could start doing some math, which is how much would it cost me to get 10 people in front of me? So 10 times 200 equals $2,000. Then 2,000 you just pay $2,000 on ads. You got 10 book calls at a 10% no show up rate. Again, this is average. Let's say 20 to 10. You could be even lower, like I showed you earlier. I'm at 6%. You know, one person didn't show up, and then at a 30% closing rate, 6 leads say no. Those leads go back into the pipeline, and you can hit them up 3 months later. Also retargeting campaigns, which the same thing, they can keep seeing your ads over and over, and they might convert later. That's happened to us a couple times. And then since you have a 30% closing rate, out of 9 people, you closed 3. Out of this 3, you sold them a 6K product. Not all of them paid in full. If you do get some paid in full, amazing. If you don't, get minimum 3K down, so 3. You get one of those 3K to pay the campaign that got you those 10 clients, right? Because it was $2,000. You have $1,000 left over of this 3. You combine that $1,000 with the second person that paid you, which will be equal 4. You have 4K now, and you can get now for week number 2 and week number 3. Right, so now you're paying pretty much 10 book calls for week 1 for month number 1 or whatever it may be. Now you're paying. Now you got paid for week 2, and now you got paid for week 3. So you technically have 30 book calls this month by this system, this strategy right here. Now, what is for the third person? The third person is pretty much that's your profit. That's what you get to keep home, which you technically made here $3,000 in 1 week profit. Right? And then that goes into your bank account. And then the magic thing about this, that next month, all those people still owe you 3K, you know? And if you may ask, hey, what's the fulfillment payment rate? It's very low. It's like, if you do this right, it should be about 3%. Some people do fail on your payments, but then you call them, you can even split the payment again to be 1,500 and 1,500. I have done that before, but it's a very small percentage, 5%. Even if it's 10%, it's still very, very low, okay? Now, one of those profits you pay for the next campaign. So that $3,000 goes back into the ads, which is to get you 10 more book calls. This 3K at this point, maybe you have a team, so it goes back into sales team, or it could go back into the ads again. It could be whatever. No sales team, either profits or back into ads. It all depends what you want to do. I always put it back into ads by myself. But then if you do have a team or you put it back in profits, then this 3 grand you keep it again, and that'll be pretty much you're averaging almost 9 grand profit this month. And this only by closing 3 leads, guys. We only closed 3 people and we made 9K profit. This is why this company is so profitable and why these systems are so profitable. And if you get it going, you can. I have clients that in 8 months they're doing 500. Well, they're doing like 380 cash collected. So I have some clients that are taking them 6 months and they're doing 50 grand cash collected. So there's a big difference, but yeah, it's totally possible. And that all relates to how big is your sales team, how much money you're spending on ads, what is the process that you're having, are you DMing, are you cold calling, or are you getting a bunch of people's information and you're calling them? So depending on which system you have, you'll correlate to how many book calls you're having. So it's all nuance to it. But that's it for this video, guys. This is pretty much what you guys do once you have your cost per book call. And this is kind of how you scale it. This is kind of how you predictably say, hey, if I spend this much, how much would I average what I get? And again, this is averages, You're not always going to spend $2,000 and always get 10 book calls, Like it could be 1,800, it could be 2,500, this is just averages. But this is how I look at it, and this is how I scale. Let's say if you can do these numbers in a month, why not do it in a week? And then that dictates how much you spend in a week. A lot of people are like, oh, how much do I spend in a week? Well, what's your cost per book call and how many book calls do you want to get? Because if your cost per book call is $200 and you're trying to book at least, you try to do this in a week, you literally have to book 2,000 divided by 7, which I think that should equal to at least 200 something, 280. So let's go, take 2K. I don't have where's the divider. Well, I think it's around how like the question becomes, if I want to book 10 book calls a week, how much I got to spend daily, right? So this will average your AVG 280. One second, something popped up. 280 average daily ad spend. So that's something that I get asked a lot. Hey, what should be my daily budget? Well, first find out how much is your cost per book call. Then start doing math. Like, how much people do I want to talk to this week? And then if let's say if it's 20, you want to talk to 20 people, then, oops. 1 second. Yeah, if it's 20 people, then it'll be 4,000, right? So then you spend $500 a day, right? If you want to speak to 60 people, then it's just numbers. Now again, it's like the law of average. Just because you spend $280 a day doesn't mean that you're gonna get a book call every single day. Because you're spending $200 for say 7 days to get the 10 book calls. Let's say on Monday you don't get a book call. Let's say on Tuesday you don't get a book call, but then on Wednesday you book 3 calls. You get me? It's just law of average. Maybe you don't get to 10 book calls. Maybe you get to 8. Maybe you get to actually 12. That's why you got to it's the average. You got to find out your numbers. That's why the tracking is king. And if you're not tracking your data, it becomes almost impossible to scale because you don't know where you're going. This is kind of like the GPS of your business when it comes to, the marketing side, in the sales side, and how to scale. And then you condense these numbers. You can do these numbers in a month, and then you're like, okay, how to do it in a week? And then how can I do it in a day? You get me? Okay, so if I spend $2,000 a day, can I expect at least 7 to 10 book calls a day? And that's how I scale. This is how I get a month worth of data and condense it. When I was doing 50K months, I was like, okay, I'm doing 50K months by spending 8K on ad spend. I'm getting 50 book calls. I'm closing at this much. How can I do this in a week? And then that's exactly what I started doing. I started spending 5 to 8K in a week so I could make 50K a week. And then that's how I started doing 200K months. And then I'm like, damn, how can I do 100K in a week? And that's how I started touching the 400K months, because I'm just condensing the data. Whatever data it took me to get to $200,000 in a month, I'm like, okay, if I'm spending $10,000 to make 100 grand, okay, I just start spending $10,000 a week if I could start making 100 grand a week. And that's kind of how it all played out. And people overcomplicate it, but it's very simple math. And then when you break it down like this, it becomes very, very easy to understand. All right, but that's it for this video. I kind of went a little bit too long. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you got any value in this video, please hit the subscribe. I keep forgetting to say this, but hey, please hit the subscribe, like the button. Also, if you want to, if you don't have a community, if you don't have like-minded individuals, if you want a founders community, people who are business owners, specifically niche down to the credit and funding space, I did start my brand new community about 2 months ago. It's just for $47 a week. You get access to over 70 hours of information and detailed information just like this, how to grow. Start, grow, and scale your credit and funding company to 6-figure months to the numbers that we've been doing, which is 400. I have some clients that even passed me. They're doing 500, aiming to do 600K months, and they're using the exact same strategy. So if you want to have a community of like-minded individuals that want to do the same thing that you're doing, I have the links below, and hopefully you get a lot of value out of this thing. I promise if you just listen to all these videos and watch them and take notes, there will be no way for you to fail if you actually execute on it. Okay, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.